Salutations, seditious Slavic soldiers, and who can blame you anyways? It's Automatic for Automatic Games bringing you the second installment of Avante Savoia. Technically, we could call it the third installment, as I precipitated these episodes with a multiplayer level that just dovetailed nicely into the story, and it ended up through some careful editing featuring Detonation and Avalanche that was also featured in the last episode and that we're seeing the results of now. We're going to pick up pretty much where we left off with Luca here.
When I got up, I thought I had died and gone to hell. They blew up the mountain. They buried us. They buried themselves.
Oh God, Matteo.
I had to find him. So I went down into that hell. It was my only choice.
Now, against the backdrop of the Battle of Vittorio Veneto,
You could have been anywhere.
Luca is going to set about the dangerous and potentially grim task of attempting to locate his brother Matteo in the valley below, which has basically been the site of a massive avalanche. And personally, I'm glad that Luca has decided to forego the power armor in lieu of his more traditional weapons, including this dagger. The Arditi were all issued a dagger and some hand grenades. And of course they weren't limited to these weapons, but they were kind of like the trademark weapons of the Arditi. The dagger signifying the close quarters combat that they were expected to enter into as they infiltrated enemy trenches. And we're sharing this weapon with the Austrian soldiers in our immediate vicinity. Anyhow, the Battle of Vittorio Veneto, it takes place on the one-year anniversary of the Battle of Caporetto. And of course, by this time, Marshal Cadorna has been replaced by Armando Diaz. And as soon as Diaz takes command, there's immense pressure for him to attack, but he instead decides to bide his time and shore up his resources. He definitely focuses on defenses, and practically ensuring that the Austrians aren't going to get any closer to Venice. And all the while, he's prepping for this mass offensive. And his timing really, I mean, yeah, it's the anniversary, but his timing is impeccable. As the Austro-Hungarian Empire it's fallen apart. And Emperor Karl is seeing the twilight of the Habsburg dynasty. And Karl, he's been in power for just a brief period.
We could hear them before we
He was his predecessor was in power for a great deal of time, a long time, many years indeed. Franz Joseph was he was emperor when the war sparked off, but for decades upon decades prior. And a little, I guess, a kind of an interesting story about Franz Joseph is he did have one son, Crown Prince Rudolph, who in the late 1800s, so before the turn of the century, Rudolph committed suicide at a hunting lodge. He committed suicide, part of a suicide pact with a lover. And I don't remember all the details to that, or what specific year that happened. But I know that the first time I read that, I was kind of in awe. I was a little bit shocked. I mean, just what a strange twist that was. But anyways, eventually the heir to the throne was going to be a nephew, Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke, who my subscribers probably recognize that guy's name. After all, his assassination is what sparked off World War I. In 1914, actually during a Serbian national holiday, he went to Serbia, to Sarajevo, to review troops. And this was kind of seen as an insult to Serbian nationalists. But so Ferdinand and his wife, they're in a motorcade and they're heading towards the governor's mansion. And his assassin, Gabriela Princip, he is part of a larger plot to assassinate Ferdinand. And in fact, while this motorcade's underway, other assassins, a lot of them miss their opportunity, whether the motorcade's moving too fast or security just seems too tight. But finally one throws some bombs, throws a bomb, but basically a hand grenade, at Franz Ferdinand's car. But it bounces off, and it rolls back, and it detonates near the car following the Archduke's car, and it injures a lot of people in that car. Or wait, that's not right. Actually, it's one officer in the car. I think it's one officer that's injured by the bomb. Otherwise, it's bystanders that are also wounded by the explosion. But the motorcade speeds off to the governor's residence, with the exception, of course, of the injured party, who was directed to a hospital. And when Ferdinand and his wife get to the governor's residence, he allegedly says something to the governor along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, "Is this how you greet your foreign dignitaries? You throw bombs at them?" Well, they stay there for a little bit, and then he decides, the Archduke that is, that he would like to visit the wounded officer at the hospital, or the injured people in general. And so, and of course, this part of the route is not on the itinerary. There's no way the assassins could know about this. And so the motorcade sets out, but it makes a wrong turn. And when the drivers realize the mistake, it stops. The driver puts the car in reverse, but it stalls out. And they're right next to a cafe. And emerging from this cafe is Gavrilo Princip.
I felt alone.
Princip shoots. He hits the Archduke's wife, and then he hits the Archduke. And then he tries to turn the gun on himself, but he's wrestled to the ground. I mean, that's just crazy, in my mind. In listening to Dan Carlin's Blueprint for Armageddon, one of the ways he puts it is this. Imagine that Lee Harvey Oswald is in the book depository, and for some reason his plan is foiled. Maybe a police officer comes up there and decides to watch from that same floor. So Oswald goes about his business. He ends up going to a cafe, you know, kind of dejected that he missed his opportunity. When he's leaving the cafe, right there in front of him, an hour or so later, is Kennedy's motorcade, is Kennedy's car. Just imagine how bizarre that scenario is, but that is precisely how it played out in terms of Princip and Archduke Ferdinand. Ferdinand is assassinated. The Austro-Hungarian Empire wants to settle the issue of Serbian nationality, or nationalism. They declare war. Serbia, well, they're just a proxy for Russia. Russia has allies in France and in Britain. Austria-Hungary has allies in Germany. And the rest is history, folks.
Some of the things I saw.
And, you know, as I stated earlier,
to convince myself I wasn't dead.
for the Emperor, he's seeing the twilight of the Habsburg dynasty. In fact, he's seeing the end of the empire. You know, this battle, Vittorio Veneto, it takes place on October 24th, 1918. Well, on October 6th, the South Slavs declare their independence from the empire. South Slavs, Yugoslavs. On October 7th, the following day, Poland declares its independence. On the 28th, that is 4 days after this battle has initiated, the Czechoslovak people declare their independence, Czechoslovakia. And on the 30th, even the hitherto loyal German subjects, they're saying they want free determination. And as a result, they would like to see Austria unite with Germany. And even if Emperor Karl endorses this plan, the Allies shoot it down immediately. They say, no, hell no, you are not going to unify with Germany. And you will abdicate. But of course, in the years leading up to World War II, Austria will indeed be annexed by Germany. And in fact, World War II is absolutely the sequel to World War I. It isn't an indirect connecting of the dots. It's a very, very direct conclusion I mean, a blind man could see it. They really could. And, you know, Hitler's grievances, whether merited or not, in terms of the Treaty of Versailles, they absolutely had real roots in the way that World War I ended. There's no question about it. And the results of World War I really, I mean, we talk about the lost generation. And the numbers in terms of casualties, they vary. They definitely do. But you can safely say in and around 10 million soldiers died in the Great War. And half of those are gone. And what do I mean by gone? I mean there was nothing left. They were either missing or out in no man's land. They were blown away, blown to smithereens. If their bodies sat there during one battle, maybe they were blown away months later at the next battle. After all, so many of these battles saw a second incarnation, a third. In the case of the River Isonzo, 12. And then there were those soldiers, dead in no man's land, that would simply become enveloped by the earth and naturally find their own unmarked grave. Imagine Passchendaele, where live men struggled in, sunk in, and ultimately drowned in mud, while a corpse would fare no better. Then, of course, there were the soldiers that were recovered, just never identified. Take into consideration Vladslav, Belgium, where one marker accounts for over 20,000 unidentified young men. You know, if you were a male, born in France or Britain between the years 1892 to 1895, 35 to 37% of your kind was gone. That's 1 in 3. And perhaps that lends to why we call them the lost generation. But it was this generation that brought about the fall of empires. It was this generation that helped to carve the world in which we know it today. They call World War I many things, among them the Great War, ironically, the war to end all wars. But you and I know better. This wasn't over. Far from it. The Germans that had so distrusted tanks would come to embrace them. The stormtrooper would return to the field. Italy, disenfranchised with Versailles, would throw in with the Axis next time. America would once again drag its feet to the aid of the Allies. No, this wasn't over. In fact, in a sick, twisted way, aspects of it will go on till the end of time.
I just know
I'm automatic for automatic games. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon, friends.
I still think about that field every day. almost stopped looking. Started giving in to the hope that Matteo had escaped. And then...
No! No!
He never got older. And here I am, still. Who decides such things? Buon compleanno, Matteo.
Upheaval followed the war, empires collapsed, new countries were formed. The world and our view of it was changed forever. Families were changed not only by those lost, but also by those who returned. Both the fallen and the veterans became known as the Lost Generation. That's a somber, poignant, but effective way to end the series. Nonetheless, there is another operations map, a multiplayer level, that's entirely speculative, so I'm going to post that next and use that opportunity to BS with you about this entire series and the game itself. And I'll name every soldier after a subscriber. That sounds like a decent approach. So until then, yeah, I will talk at you soon, buddies.
One day, all this will be over. The war to end all wars will be won by one side or the other. The guns will rust, grass will grow, and there'll be nothing left of any of this. The land will heal itself, as everything does in the end. We'll be long gone by then, but maybe not forgotten. History only remembers 1 in 1,000 of us. Then the future will be filled with stories of who we were and what we did, how we lived, how we fought, and how we died. When this is all over and the war is won, they will remember us. But until that day comes, we will stand. We will look death in the eye, and we will fight.
And if you like this video, like this video.